Common social anxiety disorder symptoms can include a racing heartbeat, blushing, shaking, sweating, being able to think of anything to say, just feeling kind of stupid or boring in conversation. Other social anxiety disorder symptoms include a sense of uncontrollable panic, difficulty swallowing, speaking, stuttering, uncertainty in where to position your hands or your body, this paralyzing fear, feeling hyper self-conscious, paranoia, low self-esteem, poor eye contact, depression, a tense, easily aggravated personality, isolating yourself by choice, separation of friends, family, and members of the opposite sex, or simply a feeling of just being uncomfortable in your own skin. Social anxiety symptoms feel like part of your everyday life as you haven't learned to accept the reactions. Well, you're not alone. If any of those symptoms sound familiar, before I understood quite what social anxiety was all those years, I used to just be paralyzed by fear whenever I would be at, a hospital appointment or in a job interview or, anything that involved a scheduled appointment. It used to cause me huge amounts of frustration and concern, and I had no idea why my body and mind reacted this way. Although I did recognize that each of these situations had something in common. They were all social situations that involved authority figures. And if I sensed any level of authority from them, I would talk through uncontrollable panic. They would understandably be completely confused by my reaction. How I moved from job to job, I'm not sure, but I realize now that I often took jobs that didn't interest me as the interviews were easier to get through. Personal relationships or friendships. Often social anxiety symptoms, they impede on establishing these kinds of relationships. It's a very isolating condition. And sometimes people take on more than they deserve and suffer an unbalanced friendship or relationship as they crave the attention or affirmation of their core belief. For example, a person I have helped, told me that she didn't get along with her husband and felt like she tolerated him. She didn't feel anything she did was right or appreciated. After working with me, she sort of discovered that her core belief was that she wasn't good enough. She fed this core belief by believing she deserved the man she married and that he must be some form of saint to even put up with her. And over time, she was able to rebalance this hot thought, as I like to call it, and see that she is good enough, that she's good enough, she's good enough for everyone around her, and that she had always felt inferior to. And this really allowed her to tackle the problems in her relationship, because she was good enough and now she knew it. Your emotions, they're personal to you, but experienced by many. And they come from your core beliefs, which are formed as you grow and as you grew up, and they're often compounded by events over time. Now, I realize that through CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, and my own research, which I'll discuss in further detail later, that my reaction was to just panic, caused by early panic in life, and these experiences that created a habitual thought of negativity. So you need to sort of learn how to interpret your emotions, and I can show you how to do that the way I've learned how to do it. And it's through sort of practical exercise. It's not something that you need some special skill for. I sort of break that down for you. You need to understand how the past affects the present. And it's a really good idea to write down things instead of just everything floating around in your head. Make a list of your social anxiety symptoms and draw lines from each symptom and target when those social anxiety symptoms typically when they arise. This is a good first step in realizing what's actually happening. It's going to be difficult, but set it as like a long-term study. You can use a notebook or journal to keep. It does take a little work, but it's well worth it. You should brainstorm. Close your eyes and take a moment, just to think of the world for a moment. Imagine one of your social anxiety symptoms. Really focus on it. Does anything come into your head, no matter how fleeting, for what in your past might have impacted you or led you to this situation? I know it's not an easy task, for you to sort of like look over that period of time. But you should do this. You should do this exercise and jot down notes in your notebook and try to revisit techniques that I'm going to show you to sort of attack these anxieties. Coping mechanisms. There are strategies you can use to cope with some of your social anxiety symptoms. And to deal with this sort of panic from authority figures, I used visualization. I would briefly close my eyes for a second before I would go in for the meeting. And, I'd feel the anxiety in my body. And, I would make it a point to try to think of something calming and smile. And the smiling is particularly important because, it gives you this warm, relaxed sensation physically. You close your eyes, and you perform this action, and it will actually make a little bit of a difference. So it's a good idea to brainstorm possible coping strategies that you can use when you're about to engage in the social anxiety inducing situation. So I give you lots of different strategies in other videos. I want you to check out the free video series at socialanxietyfix.com because it's going to show you these step-by-step strategies on how to start sort of reverse engineering your social anxiety and attacking it with practical exercises that you can implement daily. So go ahead and grab that free video series right now. You can get it at socialanxietyfix.com right now, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Bye.